Often I get asked, how do I recognize that God is speaking to me? How do I recognize if he's speaking a prophetic word for someone through me? And the first important thing to say is that God wants to speak to all of his children. So we can approach the prophetic, words of knowledge, any supernatural experience of God with a real degree of confidence. Because if you are his child, that means that you have a father who is speaking to you. He's not a dysfunctional dad. He's not withdrawing from us. He's not silent or kind of, just keeping himself away from us, which means that every single one of us can confidently recognize that God wants to speak to us and is speaking to us. So on that foundation, then we can discuss a few of the pointers maybe of how to recognize if he is speaking to you or when he's speaking to you. This isn't a formula, I should say. Each of us has a different way of hearing him, and it would be a real shame if we kind of reduce the prophetic to a formula where if you feel goosebumps and the hair on your head stands on end and you hear a faint buzzing, then you know it's God. That would be so sad, because the prophetic is all about learning to walk in relationship with him. So I can give you a few of the ways that God speaks to me, but by no means are these a formula for everybody. If you like, God has a different love language with every single one of us, a love language that makes sense to us. So for example, if you're someone with a really vivid imagination, just in everyday life, there's so many moments where you find yourself lost in your thoughts or seeing things in your mind's eye, imagining business opportunities or imagining moments of fun with friends, then it may well be the case that God will speak to you through your imagination, through the pictures that you see in your mind, because that's a language that makes sense to you. Some of us are very sensitive physically. We walk into a cold room and we straight away react, and we react to heat in a way that most people are like, oh, I suppose it is a bit hot, but we feel that much more strongly than others. Then it may well be the case that God would speak to us physically as he's trying to get our attention for the prophetic. So you've got to know yourself. You've got to know what makes you come alive, and then trust that God would speak to you through those avenues, because it definitely has been my experience and friends of mine who are very prophetic, that God speaks to us in a way that really does make sense to us as individuals. So for me, I often get just something dropped into my heart, is the way I describe it. I just know something. I meet someone and I suddenly know something about them, and I know that they've never told me that. This person might be new to me, but there's such a sense in me of a fact about them, or sometimes I see a picture for them. As soon as I meet someone or I'm talking to them, in my imagination, in the realm of my imagination, I suddenly see a movie scene playing out with this person. I've learned that when I feel that, when I sense those things, when I see those pictures, God's speaking to me. And in those moments, we don't need to get weird or strange about it. We don't suddenly need to click into spiritual jargon. It can be really simple of saying, hey, we can even phrase it as a question if we're not sure, so that it doesn't come across as kind of thus saith the Lord, which makes us feel under pressure. But we can just say really simply, hey, I just wonder if you're having a bit of difficulty at work. Is that the case? See, I haven't mentioned God there. I haven't made it pushy. I haven't said, I've got a prophetic word for you about your job. I've left it very open for the person to respond. And that way it's a low level of risk for me. If they say, oh, no, I don't know why you feel that. That doesn't make any sense. Then I can go, okay, God, teach me to learn your voice better. Or if they respond in that moment, I can easily pick up on that and then prophesy over them. So I'd say learn your own love language. Trust that Jesus does want to speak to you, because I promise you he does, and he is speaking. And then Don't look for a formula. Listen to other people's stories. It will build your faith. But God is speaking in a unique way to you. He might use your physical body. He may use your imagination. He may speak audibly. It might just be a sense in your heart. But whatever it is, it will be a way that makes sense to you, because He's a good dad and He knows how to speak to His kids.